Man, oh man, I cannot wait to talk about this game. How's it going, everyone? MonadoMax here, and today we are going to be talking about the Sonic Shadow generations in this video. We're going to be covering the Nintendo Switch version, obviously because we are a Nintendo Switch channel. However, I want to do a quick warning that there could be spoilers being talked about. I'm going to do my absolute best to not do spoilers. This is obviously a newer game, so there might be references to the story that I'll bring up that I was like, oh wow, that was pretty cool, really unexpected. I'm going to do my best to not do that because I know this is a new release, but I have a lot that I want to say about this game, and a big portion of this video is going to be focused on the Shadow Generations part. We'll be talking about Sonic Generations towards the later half of this video, but that's going to be a small portion, because I feel like Shadow Generations needs to be the main topic, as that's the new content in this remastered version of Sonic Generations. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. Now, I was quite worried about Sonic Generations coming to the Nintendo Switch, if I'm being quite honest. The history of 3D Sonic games on the Nintendo Switch has not been the greatest. Obviously, you had Sonic Forces that, did not run the best out of the three consoles that came out on. Then you had Sonic Colors Ultimate that, when it first came out, it was a glitchy mess. That whole port was crazy on really all consoles, but the Switch version was especially not that good. I believe they fixed it now, but on launch day, it was a mess. And then you have Sonic Frontiers. Now, I know people like the Switch version of that, but in my honest opinion, as someone that plays through so many games on the Nintendo Switch, I did a whole third-party game series doing 100 games of being reviewed that were third-party. I hated Sonic Frontiers on the Nintendo Switch. In fact, I considered that one of the worst ports of all time. With Sonic Frontiers, with the gameplay that it is, it's open world, and the pop-in issues, it just had so many issues. So when this was coming out to the Switch, I was like, oh no, please don't ruin this game. How are you going to get this on the Switch? Obviously, you don't know what to do with the Nintendo Switch, considering that all these 3D Sonic games are not running well on the Switch. And, well, I'm glad to say that I was proven wrong by Sega, because this game looks absolutely beautiful and runs amazing. There are things that are happening in the Shadow Generations part of the game that I was like, wow, I'm surprised there's not a frame rate drop here. From the cutscenes, to the gameplay, to the open world, I did not have nowhere near as many issues as I had with Sonic Frontiers on the Nintendo Switch. In fact, I would say this is Sega's one of the best ports that they've come out with in recent years of the Nintendo Switch support that they've been giving. I loved this to death on Nintendo Switch and didn't feel like I was really missing out on playing on the Switch compared to the other platforms. When I played something like Frontiers, I felt like I missed out big time playing that on the Nintendo Switch. Let's start off with the first level of Shadow Generations. Dude, what an opening. I was immediately hooked to this game from that opening. That was a crazy level. So much is going on. And once again, I was like, wow, I can't believe this is running on the Nintendo Switch. There was so much going on in that first level, so much story detail, so much dialogue, so much things to do in that level. I was like, oh my gosh, this might be something really good here. I wasn't really sure what to expect when it came to Shadow Generations, because if I'm being honest, initially when the game was revealed, I was like, I guess all they're gonna be doing is probably just taking Sonic Generations, make Shadow a playable character, and then maybe just like 2 or 3 levels added to Sonic Generations. But no, Sega went out of their way to make a whole new game included into Sonic Generations that's just as long as Sonic Generations, which completely just mind blew me. I was not expecting that, especially with the price tag of this game. This game was a $50 game. I was like, okay, there's no way they're gonna add much Shadow content here. There's just not gonna be much. No, you have a full-on story, full-on level system, full-on like open world, hub world that you can explore. There is so much to do in the Shadow Generations part. I know a lot of people were making the comparison of 3D World, Bowser's Fury, and then Sonic Generations with the Shadow. There's been a lot of people talking about how the menus look exactly the same when you start up the game, and There's been a debate, which one's the better one? And after beating Shadow Generations, I feel like from a content perspective, I feel like from a level perspective, I think Shadow Generations wins that argument. And that says a lot for me because I love 3D World and I love Bowser's Fury, but I felt like Bowser's Fury was more than a game mode to me than an actual full-on game, if I'm being honest. I know that's going to be a hot take, but going into Sonic Shadow Generations, there's just so much to do here, and this game is phenomenal. Speaking of that hub world, there's a lot of challenges that you can do in that hub world, a lot of collectibles inside of that, a lot of references from all Sonic media within that hub world. I thought that was really cool. I wasn't sure how heavy they were gonna go into this. Like, obviously this takes place during Sonic Generations, so it makes sense to see everything that we saw, but going into this, we kind of were thinking maybe this is DLC, maybe it's not. It's unknown what this game really was until the further we got closer to the game. And I was just impressed overall by this hub world, how big it was, how much exploration you can actually do, because it looks small, but once you get everything unlocked, the whole world around you, there is so much you can do within that. I was so impressed with it because once again, this is kind of like a pack-in thing. I feel like Sonic Generations is more of what people would buy this for, and they're not expecting Shadow to just have this full-on game, a full-on sequel to Shadow the Hedgehog. This is wild to me. I will say there is one thing within Shadow Generations that gets super annoying. In fact, I felt like it ruined the flow of this game because there's things that are happening in the story like, oh wow, that's happening? Oh wow, we're gonna go there? Oh man, I can't wait to see what happens from here. And then out of nowhere, you got these boss keys that you have to get. Obviously, boss keys were something that were in the original Sonic Generations that you would have to do challenges to continue through the game. But with the way that Shadow Generations handled it, it was something that to me was not fun doing, completing these challenges. Now, the challenges itself, the concept of it is cool. But being forced to have to do these challenges to continue the story, I did not like at all. And obviously, maybe it was just them trying to add more content, making it feel like you're playing a longer story here. It just, to me, it got really annoying to have to do that. And some of the challenges, some of them were not fun. A majority of them were. I like the concept of the challenges. There's so many more challenges that you can do within Shadow Generations. It's just, I didn't like being forced to having to do that to continue the story, especially with somehow some of the boss keys that you need. Like towards that last one, you needed 4 keys. So that means I had to do 8 challenges, which was just, I don't know, man. Especially with just being forced to do it. I don't like doing it. I like that as side content. I don't like that as like main story things that you have to do to continue the game. To me, that is a big issue with Shadow Generations. I have to say, I absolutely loved the boss fights in this game. It gets so crazy in there. I mean, at one point, a lot of these boss fights, there's like many quick time events. I guess I should really use the word event. For me, I love quick time events. That is probably going to be an extremely hot take, but I am a massive fan of quick time events. I think it's the coolest thing ever, especially it opens the door to do so much with the what's going on if you're like in a boss fight. And you know, I feel like Shadow Generations handled it perfect because you're able to see so much cool stuff happen thanks to those quick time events. But I shouldn't say events because really it was an event where you only have to hit the button once and then nothing else was actually happening. There wasn't multiple quick time events within that level, but there's an event in each boss fight, if that makes sense what I'm saying. I would say that I wish they could do more things where I could say it's events rather than just event. Either way, it was cool, opened the door to seeing some really cool boss fights happen, especially out of nowhere. I know this one got announced. This one is hilarious to me. Once you get to this boss fight, this is going to be a little spoiler territory right here, but I want to bring this up because I think it is the funniest thing ever. They have Mepples from Sonic 06. The villain of that game comes out, and when you're fighting him, he's telling Shadow, I will be a part of this timeline. Nothing is going to stop me. And then you defeat him, and Shadow's like, nah, bro, you're staying in that timeline, a non-existent timeline. It was hilarious because you could see that Meffles is trying so hard to be a part of the team, and Shadow just stomped him. It's like, that's not happening. Sonic 06, different timeline, buddy. You're not going to be part of the main team here. I thought it was hilarious, and it was cool to see that villain come back. I think there is a lot of potential with that villain. However, I'm guessing with the dialogue that was said, we will never see him ever again. I want to talk about something that they were heavily pushing with Shadow Generations. It is the new abilities. Now, you have things like Chaos Control, which obviously makes sense to have in the game, which open the door to so many cool things happening within these levels that you're playing, and actually kind of made the challenges pretty cool too, I'll give them that. But there were other things that you would unlock after beating certain levels where you would, at one point have wings. At one point, you would be able to run across the river with like swimming mechanics. I forgot what it was called. It was stuff that they were using with like the Doom Chaos stuff. It was really cool to see some of these abilities, but there were some that was very annoying. There was one that they just flat out copied Splatoon with the Inklings, where it can go under the ink. And gameplay wise, mechanically, that one was like all over the place, that ability. I was quite annoyed using that one. But overall, I like the concept of this. I think this was probably a gameplay feature that they should have worked on a little bit more before this came out, because I think this opened the door to cool things and could have been something very special having these abilities. I would say half of these abilities that you unlock in the game were cool, and half of them were annoying to use and mechanically just not all there. My last point on this is I really was not expecting the amount of story details that they put into Shadow Generations. It was really cool to see the type of story that they went with here, and seeing it take place within the Generations world that really opened the doors to do things that you could have never expected them to go back to. I really enjoyed the story here. I thought it was very special, and I would like to see more done with Shadow. I know they're calling this the Year of Shadow, and with how much praise this game is getting, maybe they'll do more Shadow things. I mean, maybe they'll do another full-on sequel to Shadow the Hedgehog. I mean, I feel like this was the sequel to Shadow the Hedgehog. It just was never like officially called that. Maybe they'll do a Shadow 3 game. I don't know. I feel like Shadow's popularity is going to go up like crazy due to this game because of how great it is and how great of Sonic Generation itself is. I love the combination of this, and it makes sense why they put Shadow in Sonic Generations now. I loved what they did here, and overall, I think y'all will greatly enjoy the Shadow Generations content. And best of all, it's a Sonic game, so it's going to drop down in price pretty fast. So you'll probably be able to get this for 25, 30 bucks in a few months' time if you don't want to pay that $50, which to me, it's well worth it for $50. You're getting 2 games, basically. Now, I want to quickly jump into the Sonic Generations part. Obviously, I love Sonic Generations. I think it's one of the best 3D Sonic games out there. So when it got announced that they were remastering that game, I got super excited because I felt like a lot of people did not get to play Sonic Generations. I felt like it was one of the ones that should have been remastered first when Sega was doing all of these Sonic titles, but it kept getting pushed back. It's the same thing with Sonic Adventure. I don't know why they don't bring 1 and 2 on modern day consoles, because those games are heavily praised, and really the only way you can play that now in current day time, I believe, is the GameCube. I don't know if it was still available on the 360 marketplace or not. Obviously, Xbox 360, you were able to play that digitally, but there was no physical release. I think Sega should really focus on 1 and 2 coming to modern day consoles, but it's Sega. Sega sometimes, they just don't like making money, if I'm being honest, because it took them the longest time to bring Persona to a Nintendo console. It should have been easy to do that, but no, they want to be difficult. However, Sonic Generations Remastered has been a little bit of a controversial thing. Now, I'm going to be completely honest and frank with you. I did not get a chance to play much of the remastered version. That's why I don't want to talk about it too much. But I want to let you, the audience, know the issues that are being discussed, since I'm kind of glazing this game right now because I thought this was incredible. One of the biggest issues that are being talked about with this game is the fact that they have changed so much. Now, The one thing that really should be talked about is not being talked about much. The big thing that people are talking about is that they changed Rogue's body, which is crazy that so many people are complaining about this. I think it is wild. There is so many complaints about Rogue the Bat. That is like the big complaint that everyone's talking about, how they changed the model, like barely changed it, but it's one of those things that, like, the fact that people are crying over that rather than the actual big issue at hand, I think just says a lot. I can't believe it. Respectfully, if you're one of those people that was just complaining about Rogue the Bat, touch grass. I'm serious, bro. I don't like saying touch grass, but if you're complaining about Rogue the Bat, there is an issue here. But the issue that was happening with this game is they also changed the dialogue. I am not seeing many people talk about the dialogue changes within this. It's just people complaining about Rogue the Bat, stuff with Amy being changed. They changed some of the cutscenes, which is interesting to do. I think the dialogue change was one of the things that should not have been touched. I can understand what they're doing with the other things that was being changed, but dialogue being changed, that was kind of weird. Basically, they kind of removed some of the cheesy things that was said, but I think they should have kept that. I don't think it was necessary for that to happen, but they decided to do it for whatever reason. I did play through Sonic Generations just a little bit to see how it ran, how it looked, and I'm here to say that it also runs and looks fantastic. I was heavily impressed with the Nintendo Switch version of Sonic Shadow Generations. And overall, I thought this thing was incredible to have on the Switch and an amazing version of the game out there. Now, the score. What am I going to give Sonic Shadow Generations for the Nintendo Switch? Overall, I think the game was incredible, the port was incredible, there's so many things to do with this, the price is incredible. There is so much content within here, and especially if you're 100%ing these games, you are going to love this game. If you're a Sonic fan, and especially a Shadow fan, I think this is a must-buy. And especially if you haven't experienced Generations in general, this is a must-buy game. One of the best Sonic games out there in my opinion. I'm gonna have to give Sonic Shadow Generations a 9 out of 10. The issues with it is really the issues that we talked about with the Shadow Generations, the gameplay abilities, the boss keys, which I feel like that, you know, if that's the complaints that we have, not that bad of a complaint. The story to me was awesome. And then obviously, I feel like Sonic Generations dialogue being changed is a little weird, but it's not like a deal breaker to me. That's why I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. Guys, I want to know what you're thinking. How are you feeling about this? Let me know if you picked up Sonic Shadow Generations for the Nintendo Switch, or if you just bought it on any other console. I want to hear what you're thinking of this. I thought this was incredible, and I really want to hear what you guys have to say. I have been talking for way too much. Make sure to backslash that subscribe button as we're trying to hit 15,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Like the video, check out the Discord, check out the Instagram, check out our P.O. Box. Already received a package from the P.O. Box, which is crazy to me. Thank y'all. And hopefully we'll do a video on that in a few months once we get enough things to open up to show off to you guys, letters, all that good stuff. And yeah, guys, check out everything in that description, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace. Come on, Sega. All you gotta do now is bring Adventure 1 and 2 to modern day consoles. This makes the most sense, but you're just not gonna do it.